This incredible man that believed in speaking softly but carrying a big stick earned his spot on Mount Rushmore. These are the unexpected twists and turns that gave us one of the most popular presidents in U.S. history. The White House was not the first house that Theodore Roosevelt made plans for. A scenic drive along Oyster Bay would bring you right up to the home he had constructed on Long Island. Before the completion of Sagamore Hill, Roosevelt faced the loss of his first wife and his mother, both dying on the same day. In his grief, Roosevelt left his newborn daughter with his sister and headed off to the Dakota Territory to forge life on a ranch as a wildlife-loving cowboy. During this time, he lost nearly 60% of his inherited fortune. That would be enough to knock anyone down, but not Teddy, as he was also known. About 2 years later, he remarried and began building his new family with Edith Kermit Caro, and that included his daughter from his first marriage, named Alice after her mother. Thereafter, he molded a political career for himself as a U.S. Civil Service Commission member, president of the Board of Police Commissioners in New York City, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Colonel of the 1st U.S. Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, known by most as the infamous Rough Riders, and Governor of New York. Whether Theodore Roosevelt would have followed the road to the White House on his own one day is possible, as his political trajectory seemed to lead that way, but scheming politicians looking to quiet his progressive ways nominated him as vice president and fast-tracked the paving of that road. Not long after the re-election of William McKinley, McKinley was assassinated, catapulting Theodore Roosevelt to the top job in the country. As president, Roosevelt was the first to go abroad. He fashioned a progressive campaign to put America on an elevated platform for the world to view. Prior to Roosevelt, the U.S. had a limited view on foreign policy. His love of wildlife and nature made him the first true environmentalist president when he signed the National Monuments Act. He made a mission of ensuring the conservation and protection of countless parks, preserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and natural monuments like the Grand Canyon. Nearly 200 million acres of national forest and parkland is owed to this visionary president. Theodore Roosevelt believed it was his duty to, in his own words, be the steward of the people. Each action taken needed to be for the greater public good. He viewed executive power as a presidential privilege that needed to be respected, but used when the American public's best interest was at stake. Often associated with his work ethic are the words strenuous life. He never seemed to tire of public service and hard work. Prior to his presidency, the summers were often a time for recess. As president, with the invention of the telephone, Theodore Roosevelt continued to conduct his presidential work remotely from his office at Sagamore Hill. After the end of his term in 1909 and a reprieve from political life at an African safari, he made multiple attempts at presidential runs, though unsuccessful. Not much quieted this man. Not his nomination for vice president, not even surviving a bullet to the chest during one of his presidential campaigns. Theodore Roosevelt died in his sleep in 1919. After his passing, Vice President Thomas Marshall said, "Death had to take him sleeping, for if Roosevelt had been awake, there would have been a fight." There is so much to appreciate about Theodore Roosevelt. I leave you with one of my favorite quotes of his. "No man has had a happier life than I have led, a happier life in every way."